Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and as you can tell, I am pleased to say that I've reached a small milestone in my long career of being a YouTuber by reaching 100 YouTube subscribers. It's taken me 2 years, 53 long videos, and over 3,800 views total to get to this small point where a lot of people reach in about a few months. But I'm so proud of myself, I'm so proud of the journey that I've taken, my desire to consistently stay tuned with making videos, learning as I go along, and I'm so happy to make this video to show you my analytics and also a little Q&A that I put out on Instagram I'm hoping to answer in this video. So it's nice to think that I have 100 subscribers on YouTube. 100 people have tuned in to my channel to watch the videos that I make. And I'm still trying to pinch myself to think that, yeah, okay, it's not 1,000, it's not 10,000 or 1 million, but it's still a lot of people who have tuned in, have decided to take their time out to watch my content. And I'm so thankful for all of you who've been tuned in since day one, who've been following my progress, my lack of progress, the change in scenery, me developing, me becoming more confident, better video editing like this, and this. So I'm so thankful to be in a position now where I can do a bit of a Q&A for those who've been tuning with me on Instagram or on YouTube. And I'm so happy to finally share this video because for a few weeks I was hovering around 98 and 97 and then 99 subscribers. So to get over the finish line and be about 104 subscribers as I'm recording this video, so hopefully 4 people don't unsubscribe. Please don't, otherwise I'm gonna get really upset with myself. But without any further ado, I want to get into the analytics and show you what YouTube is telling me about my video progress so far, and about 17 or 18 questions people of my followers on my Instagram page. If you don't follow me on Instagram, check me out over here, who have kindly put in some questions they want me to answer in this video. So let's get started with the analytics. I'm super excited with this. So as you can see on the screen, I'll just zoom in a bit more so you can see everything. Here is my YouTube Analytics Studio place database thing. As you can tell, I don't really look at it too much, which I should do, but I'm hoping to share what YouTube is telling me about my 2-year journey so far. So as you can see, I am currently at a whopping ginormous total of 104 subscribers, 30 in the past month so far. If you want to be 105, please do so. I'll be so kind. I'll be so helpful. If you want me help me to get to 1,000, that would be super amazing. Imagine if this video helped me to get to 1,000. That would be amazing, right? As you can see, a summary of 655 views in the past month, which is actually pretty impressive, I think, and nearly an entire days of watch time. So just over 24 hours of watch time, and that's pretty cool. What we'll do is go to the analytics, which is this one. Yep, there we go. And just to see what's actually happening, let's zoom out a bit so you can see what's happening. So you can see here down below, since January, I've been actually quite consistent with posting one video a week to now twice a week. I think this is maybe my 4th or 5th week now of posting twice a week. So it is intensive, but it's super fun, I think. Let's say we go to last 365 days, because I'm trying to reach that 4,000 hours of watch time in the past 12 months. So this is my 12 months so far, and I'm at 223 hours of watch time, and I need to get to 4,000. And I think a lot of this watch time will go by June, but hopefully it'll be replaced with more videos that I'll be putting out and more engagement, I hope. So I kind of class my proper journey from January. I think before January was me learning. I'll be forever learning, of course, but keeping consistent, making the videos in this space. I still enjoy that 30-day vlog that I did, and I want to do it again soon. But just to give you an insight, and I don't know too much about analytics, to be honest, as you can tell. But I wanted to show you what YouTube tells me, so I can tell you about kind of my journey so far. In terms of reach, I have 44,400 impressions. I don't know how good that is generally. If you guys know, do let me know. My impression click through on average has gone down, but my views has gone up over 1000%, which is interesting. So impressions and how they lead watch time. So nearly 18% of my content has been recommended by YouTube, which is pretty good, I think. Um, if you look here, the key thing that I was told about is YouTube search. So how many people search for a term, and then when they search for it, your actual video comes up. So that's something that I'm working on now, and something like SEO, something I'm a bit slightly hazy about, but I'm getting used to kind of making my videos more relatable. So when people search for videos, my video comes up. If that makes sense. Um, but that is those are my traffic sources. Let's click on see more. What does see more do? Ooh, this is interesting. Oh, right. It's kind of like I'm doing some research now, just like a database. But as you can see, let me just move this microphone slightly out of the way so I can see you on the screen. These are the different traffic sources. So I got external browse features. So you're learning with me about the crazy stuff you can do with analytics and subscription status. So a large part of people are not subscribed. Have you not subscribed? If you haven't subscribed, please do so right now, if you don't mind. That would be much appreciated. But yeah, let's go back to the video thing. I'm like, what's happening here? Let me come back out, otherwise I'm gonna get really confused. We've got right. Let's just start with this. This is something I know. Videos. As you can see, my best video was that my research journey, which is on the landing page of the video, of the channel. Sorry. And if you see compared to all the other videos, it's really out there as like a semi-viral video, right? Of 55 hours of watch time from one video. I'm hoping to replicate that with these videos that I have here. What's been the worst video? Sleep and Stress, the DNA Fit series. So maybe people fell asleep while watching that. Pun intended. But yeah, I think it's interesting to see how many videos I've actually made. 53 videos, by the way. 53 videos. So yeah, crazy. Crazy. Let's go into a bit more of kind of playlists. So 33% from LinkedIn and some external sources, which is interesting because I'm quite active on LinkedIn, trying to get more active on Instagram in terms of trying to get people to come to my channel through my page. I know when you reach 10k, you can have the swipe up feature. So who knows? I can try to get to 10k, so then I can facilitate that in my stories. A lot of people obviously watch that my research journey. Top term is PhD journey, which is probably related to my research journey video. Sorry, it wasn't as super glamorous, but that's what we have. So I think the key thing to remember is over 3,500 views, which is over 200 hours of watch time, and now over 100 YouTube subscribers. So I think it's probably time to get into the juicy boozy bit, which is the Q&A session. So first of all, thank you so much to everybody who submitted a question, who responded to the story. I shared some very, very interesting questions, I think, and I was fascinated with the different perspectives a lot of people had in terms of looking at either my research life and asking about questions there, my YouTube career so far, me as a person. So it's quite a nice variety. I'll be putting the question up while I answer them here, so you can see what the question was. And a shout out to the person who obviously asked that question, and then I'll be answering them in actually the order that I received them roughly. So they won't be in categories, just in the order that I received these questions. And hopefully some of the questions other people ask you might have thought of, but my answer might hopefully be beneficial for you. So without further ado, shall we get into it? So because I use my phone to record, I can't use my phone to go on Instagram and check. So I pulled in a lot of the questions into Notion, which I have on my iMac right now. So hopefully you can stay tuned while I answer these about 17, 18 questions. So I think we shall get into it right now. right? So we have Lindsay underscore M. You can see here. First question is, have you ever thought of quitting? And I think she meant YouTube. All the time. Because if you look at my growth so far, it's taken me 2 years to get to 100 subscribers. When many people post maybe 5 videos and they're over like a few hundred subscribers. Some people post 50 videos on average, and I remember one from watching Ali Abdul quite a lot, who said on average you need about 50-ish videos to get to 1,000 subscribers. I've made 53 videos and only reached 100 subscribers. So that's like, if I look at it from that lens, I'll be like, what's the point of carrying on? Clearly my videos are not great, or people don't like them, or it's not worth it. But I try not to look at it through that lens and look at it that I'm enjoying myself. I enjoy making videos. I've progressed a lot in making them, in how I am as a person. That at one point I was on 0 subscribers and now I'm on 100, so that's still progress, no matter how slow it is. And I know I'm helping and benefiting people, no matter how big or small that may be. I know I am doing that consistently, and that's all I need. And I hope I can, yes, I hope I can grow and get to 1,000 subscribers and many more. But I focus on the good things that I feel this channel is doing, which is benefiting researchers, benefiting people from me in terms of talking about fun things, complex things in simple ways. So yeah, I don't see myself quitting at all. I'm hoping to make videos for many years, and I hope you guys feel the same. So Lindsay had a few questions, so here's another question from her, which is, what advice would you give an undergrad? Now, I presume this is for maybe going into research. I think for me is the number one thing, if I had to give one advice, it would be exposure. Be exposed, or get exposed to different forms of research, different types of research, quantitative, qualitative. Try and visit other I know COVID is probably going to limit that, but try visit other universities and other research areas. So at least you get a flavor of the different types of research, so you can have a better understanding as to what research you want to go into. And shadow. When I was doing open days for my university, I used to tell undergraduates, shadow, speak to the researchers and the academics and the professors to say, is it possible to come on one day just to shadow and see what you guys do in the laboratory, or what you guys do with participants, and do that as often as you can. So the more you do that, the more you are exposed to different types of research. So the better you can make a decision on in terms of what research you want to do. Do your extracurricular activities. Make sure you have a life in terms of enjoying yourself during undergrad. Do things that you want to do. But if you want to go into research, that's would be my biggest advice. And get exposed to a lot of things, and just be able to shadow, work experience, whatever it is, even placements, like mini placements. Do it so you get a flavour as to what you're going to go into. And that's something I regret not doing enough in my undergrad. Another question from Lindsay is, did you know the direction you were taking your research from the start of your PhD? No. I didn't. This is the idea I had. So this is the research question I had when I started my PhD. But then a famous kind of statement my postdoc boss says is, let the data guide you. And it's so powerful, the statement, because depending on the data, you then go down slightly different avenues. So I was very interested in kind of natural products, medicinal chemistry, that type of thing in the early part of my PhD. But because of the research, because of external factors, I couldn't continue to keep making compounds because I had to test them at one point. It was taking too long to make these compounds. So I had to look at slightly different strategies. And once the data kind of guides you, so let's say this compound did something amazing, let's go down that route. Or these compounds did something amazing, let's go down this route. Or nothing worked, right, let's go down this route. So I think you have options when you start your PhD, or when you start research, but it's ultimately the data that decides which avenue you go down. You have like an overall picture, but I think it's the data that guides you towards, do you go down this branch of the field or this branch of the field. So I went in slightly more pharmacology towards the end of my PhD, not as much as I would have liked, which is what I'm doing now in my postdoc, but I'm glad it did so because it helped me to find what I enjoy doing as research for the rest of my life, which is respiratory sciences, immunology type work. So yeah, you don't really know the direction. You know a sort of kind of rough idea where you're going, but not like a pinpoint direction. So I hope that answers your question. Another question from Lindsay is, what was the best moments from your PhD, like the most memorable? I think it would have to be two things. Now, bear with me while I go get them for you. So this is my big black box of achievements and accolades I've been grateful enough to win during my time as a PhD student, and even achievements beforehand and now after, thankfully. But I think the two most memorable moments, for sure, were, if I can find it, is definitely, this was the first one. So I came first in the university-wide research poster competition. I'll put it here. As you can see, I'll put a screenshot here as well so you can see it properly. And I didn't expect to win at all. I was running late to give a talk at our college at that time, and I saw my presentation at the bottom of some of the invigilators and examiners who were assessing posters. I was like, why is my poster there? And turned out it was at the bottom because I was first. They were going through fifth, fourth, third, second, and mine was first. And the poster, actually, if I actually got it here, was this. So that was the poster. And it was "Stop Cancer, Cut Off His Blood Supply," which was the name. And it was for a layman audience. It was the poster presentation was for a layman audience. And my poster and the presentation that I was able to give worked really well together. And I was very grateful and thankful to win. So that was a very big highlight that I'll never forget. But I think the other one, which I have to say, because I was even more shocked to win this one, which was I won a research Oscar in 2019. There you go. And it was my student contribution to the research community. But it's not just the poster for this, it was actually the glass trophy that I was grateful enough to win. So I'll just show you that. It's quite dusty, so I need to clean it. But what it says is the one for university, Health and Life Sciences Research Oscars 2019 winner, PhD student contribution to the research community. And I think this for me personally was, I think, my biggest highlight, because I made a significant impact to the research community around me, and to win an award for that is huge, because I make this channel and these videos on Instagram to benefit the research community, and to win an award for doing that, something that I love, was huge. So I think that definitely has to be, along with winning that competition, poster competition, my two most memorable moments in my PhD. That's for sure. Next one is from Micro Mickey. Let's see here. How do you approach learning new concepts or techniques, whether it's wet lab work or dry lab work? A few ways actually. I think one of the best ways I did was, again, I know I talk a lot about it, but it really works, is the why and how strategy. So how is this technique useful? Why is this technique needed? Why do you have to do this? Why do you have to do that? How does this technique work like this way? How does it work that way? But then I use YouTube a lot. I use YouTube a lot to learn. When I was learning kind of Western blot work, I used to use YouTube a lot to, and there was like experiments somebody was doing and video recording themselves, and I would watch that and then do my technique at the same time. And there's many people now on Instagram and on YouTube showing how they analyze things, showing how they do things. So yeah, use YouTube like crazy. But then where possible, I would shadow somebody in person. So whether it's in the lab, in the other lab, or again, I wish I used Instagram during my PhD, because I would have met people who were doing a technique, and because COVID wasn't there at the time, possibly able to go meet them in their lab wherever they are and then learn from them, you know. So I think whilst COVID is limiting that aspect, YouTube massively, visit companies. So companies have a lot of tutorials and kind of how-to guides for whatever technique you're looking at. Look at theses. As I looked at, I gave a video about how to get started with a PhD, where I looked at theses which gave me an idea of the experiments I was going to do. So that I think was really useful. So I think why and how, YouTube, visit companies, Google theses, and then if you can, shadow somebody in your lab or in a different university, wherever you can. So I think that would help. Diary of a Researcher is another Instagram question by another person. How did you secure your postdoc? Funny story actually. I did. So that poster presentation that you saw just now, I did nearly identical version beforehand for a school conference, a local school conference, and I met what is now my boss in my postdoc, because he was giving a conference talk at the first half of the conference, and the poster presentations were in the afternoon. And I met him, bumped into him there, and this might take a while, but it's a really interesting story because I got that poster, which I won thankfully as well. I came a runner up in the poster prize competition and first in the oral presentation. I'll put the presentations here in terms of screenshots, and he he came at 11 to 12 to do his talk, and I had to get my poster from the printing shop before then. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to go to the conference. So everything was really last minute. So the talk that I missed, I went to get the poster competition. My poster, and then the talk that I came was his talk, which was on steroid resistance, which is now what my research area is. And unfortunately, because my mother was suffering and still suffers, but doing well now in terms of suffering from eosinophilic asthma, I studied respiratory medicine behind the scenes to become more familiar around the area. And he was fascinated with what I knew, even though it wasn't my research area. And so with my drive, my passion, my desire to do research, 2 years later, he recruited me for a part-time postdoc, which is what I'm in now, based at University of Leicester at one of the hospitals, looking at respiratory pharmacology. And so it wasn't your kind of conventional, applied for a postdoc and got it, because it's not a full postdoc yet, unfortunately. He he was very impressed with what I knew, and through that, I developed this post. So you don't realize what your interactions or what conversations you might have and what they can lead to. Because I didn't. It took a while. There was many delays, but eventually, I got this post, and I've learned so much in terms of research and science from this post than I actually did from my entire PhD. So I'm very indebted and credited to this post. It's hard work, but I've been very grateful for what I've been able to learn. Another question from Diary of a Researcher. How did you choose your PhD topic? This is also an interesting story because my undergraduate was on angiogenesis and looking at how licensed drugs, which are anti-angiogenic drugs, compare with natural products which show anti-angiogenic therapy. I'll put a link in the description of my actual PhD thesis because it's publicly available. And at the time, I was doing a medicinal chemistry placement. So I was learning about medicinal chemistry, how to make small compounds in the lab. And I was enjoying that at the time. So I thought, why not combine the two? So I combined my passion for the benefits of angiogenesis and how far-reaching it is for cancer, for rheumatoid arthritis, obesity, age-related macular degeneration, and stuff like that, with making maybe small compounds that could have anti-angiogenic activity. And my PhD became the synthesis and biological evaluation of novel anti-angiogenic agents, which essentially means I made things in the lab to try and stop blood vessels from growing, which is related to tumours progressing. And that is essentially how I formed my PhD project. Normally, you apply for a PhD which is already ready-made in terms of a project, or you apply for a studentship which has some ideas of what you're doing. I did the reverse, where I developed a proposal and then I went to supervisors in my uni to say, would you supervise me? So there were two things I want to mention for this question. Is it was difficult because there was more responsibility on me. So when things went right, it was our work. When things went wrong, it was like your work because you were the one who designed the research, right? So because it wasn't their own research themselves, I was kind of pushing a lot of the things myself. So if you're going down that route, so if you're in undergrad or if you're doing masters now and you've got a good PI, make sure there's funding for yourself and make sure there's a really strong supervisor who's going to support you, who's passionate about the work, who you feel isn't going to stop doing research anytime soon. Because that's what happened to me, and it made life really, really difficult. So if you've got questions and anybody else got questions like that, feel free to DM me on Instagram or message me, email me at aamir@research.diaries.org. I'd love to help you, and I would love to prevent you dealing with what I went through. So yeah. I hope that answers your question, Diary of a Researcher. Another question from diary researcher: how long did it take to finish your PhD? I started in October 2014. I had my viva towards the end of 2018. I submitted my corrections, I think in February of 2019, and I graduated in 2019. So I count it as my viva because I feel that was the end of my PhD. Corrections is kind of like a thing you do, kind of like paperwork you have to do. So I would say 4 years, dead on. So I was on time, I guess, but with all the issues I had to deal with and not being paid for my PhD and not having research active supervisors until like the very end, I think I was proud I was able to do it in 4 years, to be honest. Because I don't think anybody would have said anything if I took longer, because of everything that I faced. And if you, for those who are watching now who don't know what I mean, I'll link the video here, which is on the channel, which is a showcase of everything that I had to go through to get my PhD, and thankfully all the things that I was able to achieve. And it gives you an insight as to the struggles I personally had, and many other people have struggles in my PhD. So yeah, I would say 4 years from start to finish, in my opinion. Another question from diary researcher: biggest challenge during your PhD and your postdoc? Interesting, good questions. I think biggest challenge for me for PhD, I think by far, was the lack of funding. There was a lack of funding for the research, and there was a lack of funding for me as a researcher. I wasn't paid to do my PhD. So it was hard to completely focus on the PhD because I had to do a lot of work around. I was making ends meet, and it was not easy. So that pressure, that stress affects you as a researcher, and it stopped me from generating more data to lead to potentially publishing within my PhD, which was not possible. I think a lack of desire from certain parties involved that made it was hindering my progress basically. But the first one was definitely lack of funding as the biggest challenge, and I think not taking stats analysis seriously. I think that hindered me as well, because I was spending a lot more time trying to understand stats than I should have. I should have done like external courses, or shadowed somebody properly and took it seriously. So I think for personally, the lack of funding and stats analysis, I would say, were my biggest challenges in my PhD. In terms of postdoc, I think I went from a non-research intensive university to a research group that was very big in that field, very active, very kind of high level research. So I was kind of like overwhelmed, because the type of research I was doing was pale in comparison to the research that I was doing in my postdoc. New area, so it was daunting. How they did the research was a whole new level I didn't even contemplate. Like the many controls, how particular they were, how meticulous, how it's not that margin for error, there's no shortcuts, it's proper clinical research that was overwhelming to start off with. Like I felt I was out of my depth, because I was supposed to be this postdoc coming in, yet the PhD students and the master students knew more than me, naturally, because they did a master's in respiratory sciences, or a lot of the PhD students I work with now, they are respiratory therapists, so they know about the research way more than I do. And I because of the issues I faced with my PhD, I only knew a few pharmacological techniques, because this was pharmacology. But this is chemistry, yeah, I had many techniques, but that's kind of like obsolete now for me, because I'm not going into that area, and I don't wish to go into that area anymore, because I want to stay in immunology and respiratory sciences. So I think, yeah, I was quite out of my depth, which took me a few months. Even now, I think only now I'm like on the same wavelength, but the wealth of knowledge they all have is still leaves some bounds ahead of me. But it's why I'm using these evenings and weekends to study more, learn more, and become even more competent. So yeah. Next question, I think we're on our 10th question now, from Research Diaries. During or after your PhD, how did you decide between academia or industry? I think for me, I wanted to go into academia even before my PhD, if I was to be actually honest. I had no desire to go into industry because, one, I'm not very business orientated, even though I could run a small business by nature. It's a small combustible packaging business. Link is in the description. I'm not very business orientated, to be honest. I do a lot of the content creation. This is what I enjoy. And I think with academia, you get to teach. It's flexible. It's that love and that desire for knowledge, and that suits me well because that's essentially why I do research, why I make these videos, why I post on Instagram. And I think I would have been restricted in industry. Now, what I think I want to mention is you can earn obviously a lot in industry. It's more kind of, I wouldn't say rigid, but more structured in terms of, you kind of finish, when you finish from the lab, you kind of finish, whereas research is just constant. Like if you finish from the lab, you're doing other things. So I think my advice for you and for many others who might have this question is you got to figure out what do you want from research. Now you can learn a lot from industry. You can get to use more fancy equipment. You can get to work with a lot of people, but it's still business orientated, so that your deadlines are more for business point of view. And I think for me personally, that's something I wouldn't enjoy. So even though like you can get 3-4 times much, thankfully with my credentials now, if I was to go into industry, but I think job satisfaction for me was more important. And even though life is difficult, as in academia, I do enjoy it. If I was to say so, that's not for everybody. Some people are complete opposite, and rightly so. Academia is not for everybody, nor is industry. So I think the question is, what do you want out of research? What do you want out of research after your PhD? And many people go into industry, they learn a lot, they develop some experience, and they come into academia. Some go into academia, get ahead, and then they get recruited or they have a very advanced role in industry, so they can settle down and hours are maybe better. So it depends what you want, in all fairness. 11th question is from scientist Ayesha, and she says, how did you decide you wanted to do a PhD? Oh, good question. I think when I was doing my undergrad, I didn't see myself as just working in a hospital as a scientist in the field of biomedical science. So I did biomedical science as my undergrad. And I didn't see myself just working in the hospital. And I didn't know what other options to kind of take. I didn't want to be just a teacher. And then I came across research, to be honest. And I saw, the lifestyle. I loved puzzles. I loved to study. Many people back then who knew me in undergrad knew my passion for studying, my passion for teaching, my passion to figure out things. So PhD kind of enabled all three. You get to do teaching, you get to do research, you try and figure out something. So I elected to go down that route, and I think it's one of the best decisions I ever made. Even though my PhD was torture, it was difficult, very difficult. I know research is kind of my lifestyle, whether it's clinical research, whether it's working with patients, even that is something I'm looking into doing. But the research, me being a researcher by trade, is the best job I personally feel I could have. Like, I wouldn't want to have any other job, technically, than being a researcher and working in the lab, trying to figure out something to benefit patients. But you see later on, I'll be answering another question to give an idea of my long-term goals within research. But yeah, that's how I decided to do a PhD. Ayesha has another question, which is, how did I decide to be in the lab I am now? So I answered that earlier in terms of kind of my postdoc life now. But yeah, I met that academic, and then 2 years later, even though I met him at that conference, 2 years later I became his postdoc. And how am I finding postdoc life now? Here's a bit of a bombshell. Some of you might not follow me on LinkedIn, so you might not have seen the post I did, where sad realities is I have 3 jobs in a week. I work as a postdoc for 2 days, but many evenings and weekends I'm doing work in that postdoc, because as you know, research doesn't fit in 2 days, naturally. I work as a research data manager for De Montfort University in 2 days, so like Wednesday, Thursday. And I now work as a consultant for a research project on a Friday, for a professor back at my old university. who recruited me because he wanted me to help him in a big European clinical project where I'm doing some really important analysis via flow. And that's outside of making YouTube videos, that's outside of running the By Nature company, that's outside of Instagram, outside of making Medium stories. So I'm busy, but I love it. It keeps me focused, it keeps me energized, it keeps me in a place where I'm developing myself. I get exposed to different things because I'm working in these different jobs. So there are pros and cons, 100%. But if I was to answer well and truly, how you find postdoc life now? Tough, but really enjoying it. 12th question from abioblog, so from Maria on Instagram. What has been your favorite part of your career so far? I think definitely winning that research Oscar, knowing that I made a significant impact for the research community, I think for sure has been my highlight of my research career so far in terms of accolades. You have another question, which is any opportunities you said no to that you wish you hadn't in terms of your research. I think for me with my PhD, it was more I couldn't get to do things because of funding. Not that I said no to them. So like conferences, I still haven't been to an international conference, and I've been in research for the past 5-6 years. I couldn't go to kind of external courses, couldn't get funding to support me. I couldn't do kind of other collaborations where you go to like another country to do some work because there was no funding. So I think, unfortunately, I know it's quite sad. I couldn't say no because a lot of the no's were kind of said for me because there was no funding to do a lot of the things that I would have liked to do. So even now, there's not much funding for me as a postdoc, but there's funding for a lot of the sponsored PhD students. So I'm kind of still stuck, unfortunately. But yeah, sad realities of research. But yeah, nothing I regret in that sense, because I couldn't. There was no funding. A question from Mo Azim, who wishes I remember you when he first had 5 subs, and he does. He was there. I remember when it first started. So how does it feel now to have 100? Mixed feelings, to be honest. I am super happy, and if I put it like this way, it'd probably be easier to understand. When I look at what's ahead, like 900 subscribers away from 1,000. I spent 2 years and so much time and effort and resources and costs as well, and I'm only reached 100 now. If I look at it from that point of view, it's like it's hard work. But when I look at behind me, I was at 5 subs at one point, and now I have progressed to 100. It's still progression. It's pretty incredible, I think. And like the videos that I'm making now with all the transitions and the effects and the quality and how I'm talking, even though I've been coughing a bit this video, I think I'm super happy. Like it's a massive happy moment too. Because before I was waiting for like a few views. Now I'm waiting for a few more views, like more watch time, a little bit. But I'm amazed to see the progress. In all honesty, like I know it's small progress, and I know I'm a perfectionist that I want to achieve as much as I can. I've made progress, and I'm proud of it. In all fairness, question number 14. I think I've skewed the numbers, but I'm just going with what my Notion page says. And these are questions. I think it's a series of questions from a genomics PhD, so from Olivia on Instagram. What is your future plans for the channel? First of all, continue to share tips and advice for the research life. 100%. So extracting as much life lessons from my PhD for researchers, for the public. So the Instagram series I have, life lessons from my PhD for that will benefit everybody. I want to continue that. Soon in maybe 6-7 months, share a lot of videos about life as a postdoc and lessons I've done there. How is it different to a PhD? What would I advise? Sharing tips from that front, and I think continue that. So the further I get ahead in terms of the research ladder, the more videos I want to document and share about my journey. What did I do? What was good? What was bad? My advice is for you all who are or early in the journey compared to me now. And I want to just continue that all the way to becoming a professor. I hope I make a YouTube video when I get to say, and hopefully you're all still there watching me, where I say I am officially a professor in maybe some form of immunology, which is what my goal is. So yeah, I hope to make videos well in my 40s and 50s, and for sure. And I think with that, plans are also to share with the whole content corner that is normally on the Thursdays about tips and advice I've learned from the content that I consume that I can benefit you, which are my audience, from the books, the Audible books, the people who I follow, the research articles that I read, and even what I'm hoping to introduce as well is kind of science communication for kind of research history. So you might have seen very early on in my YouTube career, I was sharing what I call research origins, which were like a little story. So I was kind of like being a novelist and sharing and storytelling the journey of very famous scientific discoveries, which I'm hoping to revisit soon, because I find that really enjoyable, and I'm hoping now that I've got more of a research audience and even the public who enjoy storytelling, I'm hoping to revisit that. But I think a few other things that I want to share in terms of plans for the channel is to share more about me as a person in terms of my progress, especially physically, because I love training, I love playing tennis, I love being trying to become the fittest and strongest and most fastest version of myself. And this is why I did the DNA Fit series, which you can see here. And I think I'm hoping to share more of that. Like let's say my one of my plans in the next few weeks is to share my fitness plans for 2021 and how I'm hoping to achieve those kind of mini goals. So I think yeah, more research related content, more content corner content, more kind of research history, which has been kind of fun where people can grab a coffee and listen to me, and then more about me. I think. So hopefully that answers your question, Olivia. Yes, why did I start the channel? Believe it or not, is I wanted to make research easier to understand. And many people throughout my PhD were very kindly and gratefully telling me that you have a natural knack to explain complex things in easy terms so people could understand, like analogies, how you describe it. And I'm very grateful for those kind words, but I wanted to realize, and this was from winning that poster competition that you saw earlier, that I realized that, okay, how can I do this on the bigger scale? And then YouTube came around, and I wanted to explain like complex topics that can benefit the public, so then they can be more armed with information that they need to know. And many of the time, it's the public who are more interested. They're fascinated with how this works because somebody's explained it in their language. So I think that's been one of the main reasons. But it's evolved. My YouTube channel has evolved to where I'm now sharing more advice from my own self. So I didn't realize a lot of advice that I could give or extract from my journey so far in my PhD and my postdoc. So along with making research easy to understand, I think now it's supporting researchers. Like one of my biggest goals is to help research students, undergrad, masters, PhD, help people to advance, help people to make the most of their time, help people to get into postdocs or help write better papers, win conference presentations, win awards that you saw earlier. So I think there is the more kind of evolution to my YouTube channel, but it's still the main aspect of making research easy to understand so people can benefit. But I think one of the key things now that I realize is, as you can tell from this video so far and many other videos, is I love talking. I love talking in general, and I love talking about research massively, to the point where YouTube allows me to do that. It allows me to record myself so many other people can benefit. Because I can talk for hours, as you can tell, and I don't know how long this video is going to be, to be fair. And I know a lot of people are advising me to make shorter videos, and I'm trying, but I struggle. And I'm trying my best because I know more people watch shorter videos, but I blab too much. I talk too much, but I think that's a good thing. But yeah, that's why I started the channel. 10-year plan for the future. Right, so this is probably a good time to share some news that you might not realize, that I'm potentially planning to do graduate entry medicine next year. And the reason why is I've always wanted to become a consultant and in respiratory medicine for many reasons. Because I wanted to enjoy and make use of both areas of science, the research side of things and the clinical care side of things. And it's because I've been able to work with consultants in my role with University of Leicester that I realized that I want to be that. I want to have a chance at being that. It's hard, it's difficult, yes, but I want to be that, where These people are clinical professors in their area, but they are also respiratory consultants. They consult on rare cases. They do ward rounds. They help to discharge patients and speak to what the junior doctors and the registrars have said. But they also have their own research group. They also have their own postdocs. They're also writing grants, publishing research. They're also visiting conferences. But they get to help patients and also facilitate the research to long termly help those patients. And I want to have a stab at doing that. So, and it means I'm doing it because I want to do even more research, not because I want to break. I want to do even more research. So I think for a few years I'll hopefully be maybe showing my journey if I get into medicine, about my journey as being a researcher doing medicine and how I can make use of that to do even more research. But I think 10 years and then sharing videos on YouTube through that hopefully, grow my by nature company with my friend to help people from the environmental standpoint, grow the FPMA Foundation, so we're helping kids and early age kids in school, so they can have a better future in terms of understanding more about nutrition, exercise, and psychology, which is where I actually founded this channel, by the way. And then continue to help people up the research ladder. So the further I try and succeed, the more I can share and to others who are kind of starting off, and that's why I've invested heavily on Instagram, invested heavily into the YouTube channel because I want to and help me. That's why I work so many hours, evenings and weekends, because I want to excel and drive. I'm driven. I am that driven. I am that relentless. But I want to help other people get on the journey from the lessons that I've learnt from doing all of that. So that's kind of a rough idea of my 10-year plan. So yeah, that's the idea. 17. Background on my academic side. This question still from Olivia. So if you start off with A levels and then we go to present day, funny enough, I actually got a D in biology, in A level biology, and then my PhD was in vascular pharmacology. So for those of you who are even doing A levels, if you're watching this channel, doesn't mean you do poorly and then you succeed, but doesn't mean that your A levels are the be all or end all to your education. I got C in chemistry, C in mathematics. I dropped physics as AS. I actually wanted to go into medical physics at the time. I didn't know where I was going, to be fair. Many people at that time don't. And I wanted to contemplate doing medicine at the time, but I'm very happy and grateful to the journey I've had so far because I know I enjoy research. I love research, and I'm grateful to be in a job that I love. And doing medicine is going to help me to do that as well because I love talking with people. I love caring, and medicine is essentially all the part of that. So yeah, I went on to do biomedical science at De Montfort University. I was grateful to get a first, and then I jumped into PhD, which when you probably watched the video by now, and then I got a postdoc, got this second job, and got this consultant role, quite kind of one after each other, and that's where I'm at right now. So yeah, I'm very very slowly trying to do a level 5 diploma in nutritional therapy because I'm fascinated with nutrition, and I have a trying to start a detox course, level 5 diploma in detox course, all from the Health and Life Sciences Academy, which is very well vetted. That is kind of some part-time studying when I actually get time later on. So yeah, that's kind of a brief background into my academic side. I I was quite mathematically literate. I enjoyed mathematics at the time. So believe it or not, if I didn't go into medical research, I would have gone into engineering perhaps because I love building things and making things. Even though I don't do that quite often anymore. But yeah, I think that was again the puzzle, the building things and being creative, and research is actually that. So where you're creative, you're actually building things, but you're building knowledge. So yeah, I wouldn't have gone into engineering, but I went into kind of biology, biomedical science, and then biology now, and I'm thankful I did that. Because I rather be a biology researcher and then have engineering as a hobby as opposed to the other way around. So yeah, I'm thankful I made that choice. But last question from Study Time with L. Thank you for your question. What would you have wanted someone to tell you before you finish your PhD? I think without a shadow of a doubt, is the importance of publications. I had many hindrances that limited my chances, but I didn't realize how pivotal, if you're going into academia especially, how pivotal having publications under your belt, whether first author or second author, is to obtaining a postdoc. Um, so believe it or not, I got an interview for a postdoc at Loughborough University, and according to the interviewer, the main interviewer, who was going to be my boss, he said based on the interview, you actually came first. You beat other people who had postdocs already. So I was just straight out of my PhD against people who already had multiple postdocs and are coming here now. And so according to your interview, how you were spot on. You were first, but somebody else had more experience and more research published to become more credible, perhaps. So although I appreciate that it was hard to take that, you are measured on publications, 100%, whether you like it or not. And I don't agree with it. I think it should be a lot of other things as well, not just publications. But if you don't, it's very very hard to find a postdoc, and I think that's my honest opinion. So I wish somebody told me that, make even more emphasis on publications, that even like a review paper back then, or even a short communications or methods paper, get it out towards your PhD, because trying to publish research from your PhD after your PhD is so difficult. I'm still struggling now to do that. So I think, yeah. So for those of you who are starting the PhD towards the end or even middle, get publications as much as you can. Genuinely, as much as you get, be a part of other people's papers, do work, and be a part of collaborative papers, because you're measured on that, whether you like it or not. You are measured on that. So yeah. So I think that concludes this Q&A session. I'm sorry about the analytics. I really want to show you authentically how I don't know much about it, and I'm hoping to dive into it a bit more. But hopefully some of it was useful, and I hope the Q&A was useful. I hope you actually benefited from some deep insights as to questions my Instagram followers have kindly asked, which I really really appreciate. And thank you so much for all of you who are watching, who are following on Instagram, for giving these questions. I really appreciate it. I have no idea how long this video is, so I apologize if it is long, but I hope you still have enjoyed it. But without further ado, I shall see you now on Sunday for another PhD 101 episode. And I thank you so much for tuning in. I'm part of the 100 subscriber club, and I'm hoping to be a part of many more YouTube clubs in the near future. So without any further ado, I leave you to it. If you haven't subscribed, please do so before you leave. It'll be super, super helpful. But I'll let you enjoy the rest of your Thursday evening, and I shall see you soon. Take care, and thank you for following me and supporting me on my YouTube channel. Take care.